All right, part 3 of 6 of our training camp primer video series that we have up on YouTube. We have the Atlantic Division and the Central Division already up. We're going to focus in on the Southeast Division here. We also have our big training camp primer guide up on ESPN.com for all 30 teams as far as what to watch, depth charts, key dates, roster decisions that each team is facing. So here are my playoff teams for the Southeast Division here. Miami as the only team in the top 6. I think you can make a case for Atlanta in the top 6, but right now I have them as a play-in. My lottery teams are the Wizards. I always say Washington, and then I always think when Malika teases me about how I say Washington. We have Washington, we have Orlando, and we have Charlotte. I think you can make the case for the Wizards, certainly as a potential play-in team. Maybe you can flip-flop them in New York. But I only have 2 teams out of the 5 in the playoffs here. I believe this is the weakest division out of all the divisions out there here. And I think the Heat are probably a 5 to 6 seed potentially in here. But as I said, you can make a case for Atlanta to be in the top 6 here. So let's start with the Hawks here, right? Big picture, what to focus on during training camp. I have it in the training camp primer, is going to be the rookie extension of DeAndre Hunter. Remember last year they went with Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, both signed extensions. The previous year, John Collins did not. He waited until restricted free agency. Missed 91 games in 3 seasons. First round last year, 21 and 56%, 21 points, 56% from the field, 46% from 3 in that series loss to Miami. So you see the good of Hunter. The questions is certainly going to be the durability effect as far as him staying on the court. Average of 30 games he's missed per season. Extension eligible up until October 17th. We'll keep an eye on that. Certainly the new backcourt of Trae Young and Dejounte Murray. Usage rate, right? Young was 4th. Murray is 33rd. So each player needs the ball in their hands. Can they play off each other? Murray, 16 playoff games, 6.4 points. I know that was more towards when he was a rookie and in his second year here. So the experience level, big time playoff games is not there. The luxury taxes, certainly we're going to keep an eye on. $1.7 million over the tax. So what happens when we get closer to the trade deadline? Does guys like Holiday or Kaminsky become expendable if this team is not a top 6 team? Health will play a role. Certainly Huerter has been traded to Sacramento, but the team that lost in the conference finals, Young, Bogdanovic, Huerter, Collins, Capella, last year only played 9 games. They combined to miss a total of 50 games. So we'll see how much the health plays a role in Atlanta. The role of John Collins, last year, second fewest field goal attempts in his career. He's got 4 years, $102 million left. Does he become a trade asset down the road? Year 3 of Onyeka Okongwu. I am intrigued by him. I think you can actually make a case for him over Clint Capella down the road. 48 games, 8 points, 6 rebounds in 21 minutes. In the 6 starts, 10 and 7 here. So a lot of different variables with Atlanta, whether it be the Hunter extension, whether it be Murray and Young, whether it be Collins, how his role is, being basically the 3rd and 4th fiddle, the health of Bogdanovic. Depth-wise, I mean, you're going to look at Young, Murray, Hunter, Collins, Capella, and then you got Holiday, Bogdanovic, Harkless, Okongwu, AJ Griffin, Frank Kaminsky, probably the 2 guys off your bench here. You do have an open roster spot here, but I don't think you're going to use it because I said you were at $1.7 million over the luxury tax. The Charlotte Hornets, all right, play-in team the last 2 years. I think this team potentially could be the worst team in the Eastern Conference. And I'm only saying that, I would say that they will be the worst team in the Eastern Conference, but I won't do that to Coach Steve Clifford, who's a heck of a coach, and I don't think he would allow this team to basically bottom out and be the 15th team. But on paper, and we say that a lot in the offseason, but now we're getting to the real thing here, I don't like this team at all. I don't like what they didn't do anything in the offseason. I know they're in a holding pattern because of Miles Bridges here, but they basically returned, and you're basically going to rely on Steve Clifford coaching out of his rear end this year here. So here are some big picture with Charlotte. The future of Miles Bridges here. We know he's been charged with 3 felony domestic violence charges. I think he's going to be facing a lengthy suspension. I would be stunned if he is in a Charlotte uniform this year. He's got until October 1 to accept that $7.9 million qualifying offer. Once October 1 comes, the offer comes off unless Charlotte extends it, which I don't think will happen here. The second tenure under Steve Clifford. Where does this team get scoring without Bridges? That's my big question. Defensive-minded coach, but the Charlotte have the right pieces. Consistency. Last year, 10 multi-game losing streaks during that year. That basically took them from a top 6 team and put them in that 9 to 10 range. Year 3 of LaMelo. Can he take that next jump like we saw in Memphis with Ja Morant? Back-to-back no-show games in the play-in tournament. And does this team does not have a backup point guard. That's my other thing. They signed Dennis Smith Jr. to a training camp contract. There is nobody behind LaMelo to push him. There is a glaring need there. They did not prioritize backup point guard. That's a concern. The health of Gordon Hayward has missed 59 games in 2 seasons. He has not finished a season. That is a big concern here. And then, are there enough trade assets on this roster to make a big splash? So you got 4 years of Terry Rozier. You got the expiring contracts of Oubre, Washington, and Plumlee. You got 2 years left of Hayward. The young players, Bouknight, Mark Williams, Kai Jones. You cannot trade a 2027 of your own, but you do have that Denver first that you acquired the night of the draft here. PJ Washington is extension eligible. We'll see if Charlotte locks him up before October 17th. I'm thinking 4 years, $75-80 million. That's probably what his range, and he's going to get a lot of run with Miles Bridges out. So you got 13 guaranteed contracts. You've got to find a backup point guard here. That is a priority if you are in Charlotte. As I said, the Washington deadline is October 17th with this roster here. And then when you look at it, I mean, the depth chart is Ball, Rozier, Hayward, Washington, Plumlee, blank at point guard, Martin, Oubre, McDaniels, Mark Williams, Bouknight, Nick Richards, Kai Jones. That's a 26-win team there. It basically would be an 18-win team if Steve Clifford wasn't the head coach. And I'll give Clifford +8 in wins here, but this team stinks in Charlotte. And I understand the Miles Bridges part, but this is not a good team at all. And if you make the playoffs, come back and I'll apologize to you. Who do we have next here? The Miami Heat. I have the Heat in the top 6 here, but I think you can make an argument as them being in the play-in, and that pains me to say it, living down here in South Florida here. Big picture. Year 2 of Kyle Lowry, 36 years old, 13th in total minutes among active players. We saw him in the playoffs, certainly battling injuries. Did not play well at all. Defensive liability. Do we see a little bit of redemption of Kyle Lowry in Miami in year 2? What about the loss of PJ Tucker, who plays power forward? Are we going to see a heavy dose of Caleb Martin and Jimmy Butler? That's a concern. Jimmy said it during his press conference. Duncan Robinson, perhaps, maybe. The big question that will hover over this roster during the training camp is the Tyler Hero extension. We saw 4 for 107 for RJ Barrett. Is that going to be the same number? 33 career starts in 3 seasons, 6th man of the year, paying him starter minutes. And then the other thing is the resources to explore the trade market. $162,000 below the tax, can trade at 23, 27, and 29 first. If you lift some of that protection off that Oklahoma City first. The expiring contracts of Hero, Struss, and Vincent, and then the $75 million owed to Duncan Robinson here. You're going to be looking at Lowry, Struss, Butler, Martin, Adebayo as your starters. Gabe Vincent, Hero, Oladipo, Robinson, Dedmon. That's kind of your backcourt as far as what you are looking at there. You might look at Hayward Highsmith, that's some power forward, but there is a glaring hole At the 4 spot, as I said, you are going to see a lot of Jimmy Butler at the 4 this year, and they are right at the luxury tax. Orlando, I'm intrigued about Orlando. We've got the Markelle Fultz injury there. 29th last year in efficiency. My big concern is going to be the play-up point guard here. With Fultz out, now are we going to see a lot of Cole Anthony back again? 29th in offensive efficiency, struggled in the pick and roll. Cole Anthony averaged career high 17 points, but led them in field goal attempts, which is a huge red flag. Inability to finish at the rim. Where was Jalen Suggs in the mix? Struggled with injuries in his play on the court last year. Did not play in Summer League. I wanted to see a full season of Markelle Fultz. We can certainly still do that. But how this team develops will be centered around the point guard position, because I like the front court. I like Wagner, Banchero, Carter, 3 players under the age of 23. I like that group there a lot. Tradable assets on their roster. The veterans, Terrence Ross and Gary Harris, who's injured, the former first-round picks. Hampton and Okeke. Mo Bamba is on a team-friendly contract. Jonathan Isaac, who said, hey, you're going to see me at some point this year. And I'm thinking, God almighty, we haven't seen him since August 2020. Remember, he's still on this roster. You've got 15 guaranteed contracts. So you're probably looking at Anthony, Suggs, Wagner, Banchero, and Carter. Fultz and Harris are out. Ross, Okeke, Bamba. Not gung-ho on that depth there. So that is your Orlando Magic. I'm intrigued. I think they'll be better, but they are a playing team. Washington, I think you can make an argument as a playing team, but I have them as kind of that 11th seed right now. Big picture for the Wizards. Bradley Beal, the new $250 million man, was last year's regression more about his injury, poor point guard play, or is it just kind of an overall regression? He had that surgery on his wrist on February 10th. Year 1 of that $250 million contract. So that's my big question as far as what are we going to get with Bradley Beal. A full season of Porzingis in the 17 games, 22 points, 51 from the field, 54% from 3, 10 rebounds. I like them in that spattering of games. Games played the last 2 years, 43 and 51. That's always going to be the case as far as, with Porzingis. He's got a big $36 million player option. Does Washington have enough to go big game hunting? Porzingis, Kuzma, extension eligible. Will Barton, Daniel Gafford, the former first-round picks, Davis, Denny, Hachimura, Kispert. Draft picks can trade 3-1s, but need to lift the protection on the 23 first that is owed to New York. And then, of course, is Kyle Kuzma part of the future, extension eligible, 4 years, $70 million. I don't see him signing an extension. I see him becoming a free agent next year. And then it comes down to your new point guards, Monty Morris and DeLon Wright, right? Those guys are not sexy names, but kind of a stopgap as far as where the Wizards are entering this season. He needs some big development from your former first-round picks. Davis, who they drafted this year, Kispert, Denny, Rui Hachimura.